What's the best gift a guy can get you on Valentine's Day?
We do not want necklaces with the hearts on it, okay? We don't want those. We do not want those. I will tell you what we want. We want a Sephora gift card for $100 plus.
Okay.
And we want flowers, and we want a bottle of wine, and or a nice fancy-ass dinner. Yeah. That's what we want. Do not waste your money on a heart necklace this Valentine's Day. Please.
Whoa.
Oh, Valentine's Day. It's Christmas for the thoughts, the simps, and the emotionally unhinged. A magical day which involves way too much emotional investment for virtually no return. For many, it's just an excuse to demand expensive gifts, and for others, it's yet another excuse to constantly complain online about how her bone buddy didn't buy her anything for this overrated holiday. So in other words, it's just like any other day in the life of a modern woman, except she just ups the price tag a little bit. Case in point, what this charming little creature wants for this particular holiday is $100 in free makeup, $200 in roses, and or $300 for a one-time meal that's intentionally marked up by restaurants because they know a sucker when they see one. But let's take a closer look at these things. Makeup gets used up and thrown away after it's emptied, roses will eventually wilt and die, and an expensive meal will still come out the other end as excrement. So it's all fairly meaningless in the long run, just like dating a modern woman. But that won't stop these delicate little flowers from assuming that this day is super important, even though they can't really explain why. I know I can't, but I also can't help but not care.
Now, obviously, I'm not saying that I think that your boyfriend or girlfriend should automatically just have to purchase things for you to show their love. But what I'm saying here is that there is something called a love language. And when you perform that, you are speaking to your partner about how much you love them.
I can see behind your shirt.
So you think buying people gifts is an expression of how much you love them, huh? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Let me pose this scenario for you. Modern women have high expectations for the first date. This has all but been established. The man is required to pay for drinks, dinner, and Uber rides, and at a bare minimum is expected to pay $150 to $200 just to gain your attention for a few hours. Now, if that's the baseline for the bare minimum, what are you expecting for Valentine's Day exactly? What's the bare minimum for that? And if he doesn't meet that invisible standard that I'm not even sure you know exists, then what? Are you gonna break up with him because he didn't buy you the right trinket? That's the problem with Valentine's gift giving. If it's not the right thing, then it somehow ends up magically becoming a metaphor for your unhappiness. If he gets you nothing, then he doesn't care about you despite anything else he might do for you. I don't know. Sounds to me like you're trying to justify wanting presents by saying that those presents are the ultimate test of how much he loves you, and that doesn't seem right to me.
And if your partner has expressed that participating in Valentine's Day is something that appeals to their love language, then I don't understand what is so problematic about performing, even if it is a fake made-up holiday, if they've expressed that it's something that makes them feel loved.
What?
Question. When you use the term partner, which you shouldn't do because partners are for business mergers and cave divers, are you referring to your boyfriend or yourself? Because it sounds to me like the person you're dating has expressed their distaste for Valentine's Day, and you're sounding a little salty about it. If you need to receive material gifts in order to feel loved, or you interpret gift giving as a form of love language, then that's a you problem. Now, I can't represent all of the human race. I'm not that powerful. Yet. But I think it's safe to assume that for many folks out there, gift giving is mostly seen as an obligation and not exactly as an expression of love. And when you tell the dude that you're boning that you want him to give you presents on Valentine's Day, despite his apparent misgivings for the holiday in general, then those gifts aren't going to be things given straight from the heart. They're going to be trinkets to fulfill some kind of contractual obligation you conjured in the barren wasteland where your brain used to be, and it's going to be just as much of an empty gesture as if he gave you nothing at all. But I'm assuming you don't care, just so long as the object in question is shiny or expensive, right?
By this logic, every holiday is made up. Every single holiday is just some made up thing. So why do we have to wait for Christmas to give people presents? Why do we have to wait for Halloween to dress up? You know, so what is the problem with celebrating Valentine's Day? If someone's expressed it's important to them, is the main issue.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
Well, no, your logic makes about as much sense as buying expensive gifts on Valentine's Day. You can't compare Valentine's Day to Christmas. That's not really fair. You see, Christmas is celebrated for virtually 6 weeks. During that time, you can't go a single day between Thanksgiving and Christmas without hearing countless carols, seeing Christmas lights everywhere, as well as the broken down spirit of your average retail employee. Even Halloween is celebrated for virtually a month as people put out jack-o'-lanterns for man-children to smash on a regular basis. Valentine's Day is one day, possibly a weekend depending on the year. And the only exciting lineups you'll see in that period is on the 15th when all of the candy and stationery gets marked down by 75%. It doesn't have nearly as much meaning as the other holidays. You just trump it up because it's a worldwide day of love, whatever that means, and the only way you feel love can truly be expressed is through the receiving of junk chocolate, dying weeds, and money. And if that's your thing, hey, more power to you. But for some folks out there, it's just another day that ends in Y. And they have better things to do with their money than make a vain attempt to buy your affection.
I'm not one to do Valentine's Day. I am not for supporting corporate America charging 3 times as much for flowers or really gross chocolate in heart-shaped boxes, or the fact that it's actually patriarchy disguised as romance. But anyways.
Say what now? What now?
Did you just say that Valentine's Day is just patriarchy disguised as romance? How in the immaculately luminescent t-shirts of the intergalactic space god Warblitzer, all hail, did you come to that conclusion? If anything, Valentine's Day is the patron day of simps. Modern women expect men to just shower them with praise, love, gifts, and affection. How does that correlate to an imaginary systemic persecution of women? If anything, most women expect Valentine's Day to be the international day of female worship times infinity. Men typically get the shaft on Valentine's Day as they are the ones to be expected to put in all the legwork with the gift buying, the date planning, and the ass kissing. So where are you getting this assumption? I'm genuinely curious as to how you're capable of bending this kind of logic to make yourself look like a victim on Valentine's Day. And believe it or not, I actually did research to try to figure out what these folks meant. Outside of an out-of-context interpretation of the history of Valentine's Day, this is all I could find.
Not all women want roses and chocolates for Valentine's Day.
Some of us want to dismantle the patriarchy and eat the rich.
What does that even mean?
So I guess Valentine's Day is patriarchy because corporate America is bad, even though corporate America actually publicly embraces anti-patriarchy sentiment in their advertising, their workplaces, and their policies for both the advertising and their hiring practices, and are even willing to take massive hits in profits if it means keeping their equity quotas within optimal ranges. But I guess that's just a moot point because it's always the militant ones who can't get a date with anyone better than a simp, especially during this time of year. So I'm gonna assume that this whole Valentine's Day is patriarchy nonsense is for people who are too butthurt that they can't really find anyone who's willing to tolerate their disrespectful nonsense. Well, I can't say I'm surprised if that's the case. Most folks who can't get a date on this overrated holiday will go to great lengths to try to convince the entire planet that they're happy for being alone, even though most of the planet really doesn't care.
Rules for Valentine's Day if you're single. I spent the last 2 years in a row single on Valentine's Day and taking myself on a date on both occasions, and I feel like I finally mastered how to make the day perfect. First rule, let's get it straight. This is a holiday of love, not relationships. So learn to romanticize it. Now is not the time to start beating yourself up about not having a date. Now is the time to figure out who you want to shower in love and affection on this holiday. Because even if you are single, you are incredibly blessed to have self-love, to have the bestest friends, to have loving family members, the list goes on. This leads us to number 2, act of kindness for anyone. Literally, buy a bouquet of flowers for a stranger on the street. Send a box of chocolates to your girlfriend's house. Spoil your parents or your siblings. And if you do have a date on Valentine's Day, oh my god, please get them a gift.
That is the worst idea I've ever heard in my life, Tom.
Yes, it's horrible, this idea.
Wow, woman, that has got to be some of the dumbest advice I've ever seen when it comes to this subject. All this crap does is remind people of their crippling loneliness to fill the void with meaningless gestures. I know you think you're doing someone a favor by buying them flowers, but all you're doing is confusing the living hell out of them. You don't need to put in so much effort. I don't know if this is still a thing, but back when I was a kid, we had to give out Valentine's Day cards to everybody in school, and let me tell you, there were so many varieties of cards you could give out. There were X-Men Valentine's Day cards, G.I. Joe cards, and if you wanted people to make you think you were real cool, you busted out the Ninja Turtles Valentines, because then you were playing with real turtle power. And if you wanted to let a girl know that she was something special, you handed her one of the Leonardo cards, because that's when it truly meant something. Or you just gave it to her at random. I don't know, the rules were kind of complicated because nobody wrote them down, but we all silently agreed upon them like gentlemen. So just give a random stranger a Leonardo-themed Valentine. Trust me, it'll work some of the time.
Now we're gonna get to making this the perfect day. Valentine's or solo date, pick one. You can go so extra with Valentine's Day. You can get super dressed up, get the best pics, cook a cute meal, host, decorate, super cute. My personal favorite is solo dating. I actually vlogged both times I solo dated on February 14th of the last 2 years, if you want to check it out. But yeah, solo date, because you have always been there for you, so you should take yourself out. You deserve it. Next, plan and reservations. It is crucial that you make reservations for whatever these two things that you decide to do on Feb 14th, okay? Because it is a priority. You are not allowed to back out or act like it's a casual thing. Because would you back out of an actual date you had on Valentine's Day? No, you wouldn't. You would get fully dressed up for them. You would probably buy a new dress for them. Now you do that for your friends or yourself. And plan-wise, make an extravagant plan. I do this every year. This year on February 14th, I'm taking myself out to lunch, then I'm going to a museum, then I'm going to journal in a cafe, I'm going to buy myself flowers, and I'm going to buy myself a gift.
Whoa, slow down there, Tigress. You're talking about going to lunch, drinking some coffee, and buying yourself a gift? Well, I'll be dipped. That is extravagant. There's no way you could do any of that stuff in any given afternoon, and planning a date with yourself with reservations and fancy dress just seems like an incredibly boring experience, not to mention a complete waste of money. We all know what's gonna happen. You're gonna dress to the nines for your reservation, order a meal, scroll through social media, and text everybody you know in hopes of getting some kind of a social contact. You'll take a few obligatory selfies, post pictures of your food to Instagram, eat in depressing silence, and after you pay your bill, you're gonna go home, put on some sweatpants, and eat a pint of ice cream while watching a movie as you cope with the fact that you're spending yet another night alone. There isn't enough fancy dress in the world to cope with that, but hey, it's your money, and expensive restaurants don't discriminate.
Linking onto the plan, you're gonna do something you never get to do. So this can't be some casual thing that you just do on the weekend with your friends. This is especially important if you normally get kind of sad around the Valentine's holiday. You need to build up as much anticipation and excitement for this holiday as you possibly can. You are going to change the narrative of being single on Valentine's Day from sad to amazing. So visit a new city, book yourself like a spa retreat. Spoil yourself. On my first Valentine's Day alone, I bought myself a Dior ring, not because I can casually afford that, because I definitely cannot, but I knew I would always wear it and there was a meaning behind it. I bought that as a promise ring to myself, as a symbol of the love I have for myself. Get cute with it. And lastly, destroy all expectations. What I mean by this is destroy this ideal and expectation we all have of finding our soulmate in our 20s. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, that does not mean you have failed. Therefore, being single on Valentine's Day is not a bad thing. You are prioritizing yourself. You haven't settled in a mediocre relationship, so pat on the back for you right now. Being single in your 20s is the new it girl thing to do, okay? Prioritize yourself, travel the world, achieve your dreams, and love will come when it's meant to.
Nobody cares what you think.
Well, that's just the problem, woman. Your expectations were far too high. You're using language like a soulmate as if your life is just one gigantic fairy tale. Well, newsflash, it's not. And instead of owning up to this and maybe lowering your standards to find a halfway decent guy, you'd rather degrade yourself by bragging about how you spent way too much money on a promise ring to yourself that does nothing but remind us all of your vanity and your sheer refusal to accept reality. There's no sugarcoating this. There was no need for you to do any of this. But you are of the expectation that your life is supposed to be one gigantic happy ending when those only exist in old Disney movies and less than reputable massage parlors. You're desperately trying to sell this delusion to a massive group of men who simply aren't buying it. Nobody is going to swoop in and save you at the last minute because you are at catastrophic levels of cope, and no man wants to be stuck in that particular blast radius when you go critical mass.
You blew it. Capiche?
You don't have a date for Valentine's Day, but you still want to look hot for yourself, right? Okay, I got you. We're gonna do 2 outfits, one with black pants, one with white pants. If you want to look beautiful and sexy and untouchable, put on some silk pants. I don't know why, something about them just makes me feel amazing. We're gonna do this top really sticking with the is it pajamas, is it not look. I know what you're thinking, it doesn't really look like a Valentine's Day outfit, but that's why we're gonna add this little heart necklace. Little black heels. Alright, it's beautiful, it's stunning, and if you wear this outfit, no men will be approaching you out of fear and intimidation.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's the ticket. You don't have a date for Valentine's Day? Then just dress up like you're going to a convention for Valentine's Day themed prostitutes. Because dressing provocatively has nothing to do with catching a man's eye so we can give you some attention. You dress like a budget-friendly streetwalker just because it's for you and to somehow magically intimidate and scare guys off because, well, alright, the logic doesn't exist because that's not why you're dressing like that. There's no sense trying to prove otherwise. You're resorting to the lowest common denominator to get men to buy you drinks and hopefully get Chad, Tyrone, Raphael, and or Takeda's attention. It's clear to everyone that you're just doing this in hopes of going out alone, but coming back with a brand spanking new situationship that'll most likely end when the aforementioned gentleman will grow weary of your uselessness after a few months at best. Just admit it. There's no shame in it. Alright, well there is, but you should do it anyway.
For the second look, we're gonna incorporate a little bit of the Valentine's Day colors. It's pink, it's lace, it's red, it screams Valentine's Day. I added some dainty jewelry, you look fun, you look cute, but you don't wanna look too cute and too approachable, so we're gonna throw on some big ass boots. Alright, it's very cute, but you can also stomp on anyone who tries to approach you, so perfect.
Go, girl! You get it, girl! You hear that? You got it, girl!
Alright, hold up. I'm kind of confused here. You are wearing an outfit to go out to celebrate Valentine's Day, but you're not celebrating Valentine's Day because you're single and you have no date. You're wearing revealing clothing in Valentine's Day colors, but you're also wearing Frankenstein's monster boots to physically assault anybody who gets near you. So which one is it? It can't be both. You can't go out dressed like you're trying to get some rich guy with your abysmal muckport of excruciating misery, but also saying that you're trying to intimidate the men from talking to you. If that was the case, you wouldn't be dressing like a mid-2000s high schooler at her first kegger. You'd be dressing more like this.
In my dreams, I'm beautiful. And bad.
And even then, I'm fairly certain there'd be a lot of dudes who'd hit on you if you look like that. So which one is it, woman? Are you trying to stick it to Valentine's Day, or are you desperately lonely for a rich man? Pick one or the other, because you are pathetically failing on both fronts.
I don't know! I'm so confused anymore.
Guys, I've just found the best way to celebrate Valentine's Day if you hate your ex and you wish you could make them suffer for what they put you through. For $10, San Antonio Zoo in Texas will name a cockroach after your ex and feed it to a zoo animal. It gets better. It gets so much better, trust me. They will even send your ex a card informing them that you've done this, that you've named them after a cockroach and fed them to an animal. You can also upgrade to a dead rodent for $25. Or you can pay the zoo $150 to record a personalized video message showing your cockroach being devoured.
I hated that so much.
Yeesh. Imagine being simultaneously so bored yet so salty over your situationship dumping you that you're willing to pay a zoo to name a dead pest in that guy's name and feed it to an animal. Imagine being so devoid of any maturity that you would think wasting perfectly good money on this gimmick will do anything to show your petty revenge tactics. Can you imagine the complete void of thought that went into something like this? Yeah, that'll show that rat bastard for breaking up with you. Just imagine the look on his face when he sees that card come in the mail. He's gonna feel all guilty and stuff. Maybe then he'll call you and beg for your forgiveness because of this ultra power move. And then you'll send him the video of that roach being fed to an animal and you'll totally own him. Or he'll just be weirded out for 2 seconds before going out with his girlfriend or his buddies, who will then listen in confusion as the chick he dumped 3 years ago sent him a video of a cockroach named after him being fed to a zoo animal. They'll have a good laugh at your expense and you'll be out $125 on a power play that was stupid and pointless, much like you on Valentine's Day. And that is gonna do it for the Valentine's Day Spectacular, gentlemen and gents. Thank you so much for checking it out. As always, if you're new here, if you found that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave a comment or 7 so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.